Hello, everyone, and welcome here to an all-new edition of the Bearcat Breakroom. Of course, I am on the road, and Nick Zieziula, he's at home. So we're doing this in a really unique way. We're bringing you back a couple of years, right? This is actually an American Idol audition. Nick's going to be singing. I'm going to give him the song. So very excited to be here with you this morning with Nick Zieziula, the head coach of the men's tennis team with the Binghamton University Bearcats. This is the Bearcat Breakroom, and it's exclusive in our multimedia marketing partnership with WakeUpCall with Dan Tortora, Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, and Binghamton University. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be with you, Dan, and glad we're able to do this from miles apart.
Yeah, happy to be with you as well. Yeah, normally we're not that far away from each other, but this time around, I decided to take a vacation and, put I think I did something work related every day because that's just how it is. And I know that you understand that. So, but it's good and it's fun and it's very meaningful to me to get you onto the show, as I know the NEC opportunity is coming up here for postseason play in men's tennis. So I appreciate you for taking some time. And your first song is going to be "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Whenever you're ready.
All right, I'll get the tuning in set up over here.
So let's go all the way back to the beginning. I want to Tarantino this thing, Nick. Why tennis? How did you get involved with the sport?
Oh wow! So we're going way back. Yeah. So it goes back to when I was 4 years old, and my dad had been involved in some racket sports a little bit. He was more of a racquetball player, but we were on a family vacation, and my dad wanted to get out and hit some tennis balls. And he didn't have any other takers in the family. My mom didn't want to go, and my older siblings weren't into it. And I just wanted to do something with my dad, and so I was begging to get out there. And we hit some balls, and I enjoyed it. And when we got back from that, they got me signed up for some lessons, and I didn't play like a ton.
Yeah.
Very early on, they kind of kept me involved in the game a little bit, sort of a once a week thing. And yeah, just my passion for the game continued to grow. I played more sports in high school, but I always kept coming back to tennis as the one that I enjoyed a little bit more, and was fortunate to have a great career playing at the University of Buffalo.
Yeah, and like you said, it all started back with family, started back with your dad. And for you, what do those memories mean today that, dad says, "Hey, let's come out and, will somebody come with me and go hit a few balls on the tennis court?" And you got some family members going, I don't know. And then you said, "All right, you know what? I'm going to do this." When you look back on that and everything that tennis has given you since then, what does it mean to you that your dad asked you all those years ago if you wanted to go on the court?
Oh man, so much. The game has taken me all over the world, between recruiting and playing. I've met people from all over the world. It's just been a tremendous vehicle for growth and experiencing so many different cultures and things. The road trips with my dad, going to tournaments, just going to the public parts to play and to hit. Those are things that will stay with me forever. My mom wasn't much of a tennis player, but she did. She got involved in the game and found out, did a lot of reading on sports psychology. And so she found ways to connect with me and help me grow in the game, even though she wasn't necessarily out on court, hitting balls with me and driving me to practices and things like that. So tremendous support from both of them. My siblings were always big fans and always supported me. But yeah, those memories of my mom and my dad finding different ways to help me out. My dad wasn't a big tennis player, but he was the kind of guy where when my brother wanted to get into soccer, back what feels like a million years ago, would get VHS tapes from the library to learn about soccer and fundamentals. That's always stuck with me, of my dad just being willing to learn. Both my parents just being willing to learn about something that maybe wasn't right in their strike zone. And that's definitely something that's bled over into me, and that thirst for learning and growing that I'm very grateful for, that's impacted me way beyond just tennis.
Well, I think that it's an amazing part. It speaks to your parents and how just not only amazing they are and caring they are, but how cool it is to have parents saying, okay, if this is the interest of my child, then I'm going to not only go out there with them, but I'm going to educate myself. Like you said, get VHS tapes. I'm going to learn about this. I want to shout out mom and dad. So to everybody that doesn't know, let's shout out their names and just what your favorite memory is with them, either on the tennis court or off.
Oh man, that's tough. So yeah, David and Charmaine. Man, there's so many. It's hard to pick from one, but yeah, just the countless hours hitting with my dad at the public parks. And anytime I was driving anywhere with my mom, just the conversations we'd have, whether it was driving to church or driving to school or driving to tennis practice and just chatting. Just the time together with both of them.
Yeah. Well, David and Charmaine, big time shout out to raising somebody who's obviously done something with that time and that experience. And, you know, it's just it's an amazing thing when you have this special moment with family and you have a special moment with people that you love, and it can blossom into a career. It can blossom into something David and Charmaine gave to you. So now here you are giving other people a decade at Binghamton. Does it feel like a decade? We're going back to December 2014. Has it felt like we're heading to in 2024 in December? It'll be an official decade. Does it feel like 10 years at Binghamton?
It doesn't. I've absolutely loved my time here with the people. Going back to incredibly grateful to Ed Scott and Pat for giving me the opportunity to come here. And we've had so many good coworkers. The community where my wife and my kids on the west side. Man, there's just so many aspects of the area that we have loved and enjoyed and thrived as a family in our marriage. That Binghamton has been a big piece of that. And now with Gene and President Sanger, putting us in a position to be successful in the NEC, and that was a big commitment for them to show to the program. So really grateful for that and the position that our student athletes are in now. We've had amazing alumni support from Michael Lane, former coach Michael Stark, and just so many of the guys are we frequently talk with the team of when we're coming back from road trips and like, oh man, there was another alum who came out to watch us wherever we were playing, especially when we're down in New York City, where we're more often now in the NEC, which is great. But yeah, just tremendous support for the program in so many different ways in the community. And we've got a really unique situation up at the Lane Stark Tennis Center with so many great members up there that are invested in the guys and want to know how they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So no, it doesn't feel like it's been 10 years. It feels fresh and exciting to me each day.
And when you look at facility-wise, just what has happened in the last decade, what can you say to what men's tennis has at Binghamton University and what the day-to-day is for the student athlete as far as what Binghamton can offer for time put in as well as the experience of the facility? Because I know that there's schools that are looking for places. There's on-sites, there's off-sites, there's trying to find that right relationship. There's schools that have to move to different places. So bring us into what this journey's been for men's tennis and what is at the disposal of the student athlete.
Yeah. So when I first looked at the program, one of the things as a head coach is you're always looking at is, can I be successful there? If you're looking at taking a job, and we had a good situation with what was at the time the Binghamton Tennis Center, and it was owned by Michael Stark, and Michael Stark was tremendously invested in the tennis community in Binghamton. He was instrumental in having gotten the Challenger tournament to Rec Park in the 90s. He had invested, what was it, like 25 years in coaching the program while still owning the tennis center. So he had a lot on his plate. But when I looked at the job, when I was coming from Georgia Southern, that was one of the things is that there was a great tennis community in Binghamton and there was good access to indoor time. But with the reality of running a business, being able to play a lot of home matches, being able to get practice times in the middle of the day, they just weren't things that were possible under that model. And so with the commitment from President Sanger and the university to make this move and taking over in what is now the Lane Stark Tennis Center, it was really fundamentally changed the program, where we're able to get more practice time. We're able to get practice times at better hours of the day. It's just, the research shows over and over again, sleep is such a huge, massive part of an athlete's success and their ability to get good recovery. And when you're training at 6-7 o'clock in the morning all the time, even when you have a group of really dedicated student athletes, Binghamton it's a tough academic school, and our guys are in engineering and in school management. We got a guy in pharmacy right now. It's a PhD program. It's not that they're not dedicated, but it's just not, the biorhythms don't support the best possible recovery and things like that. So now that we're able to generally practice, our earliest practice time is 8:30. Most of our times are more in the afternoon. Our guys are able to get better rest, and we've seen that pay off this season, and just the freshness and the energy of the team. We've played 10 4-3 matches. My first year here, we had a lot, and we had 8. So we're playing a ton of tight matches where it's coming down to, just a couple decisions here or there, a couple execution things. And so that energy and enthusiasm that the guys are bringing to practice, I think that directly stems from the facility situation being better, or better access to training times, and more access. And then we played more home matches, which is, home court advantage is huge in tennis. Everything from the lighting to the court surface, the bounces, not sitting in a van for 3 hours and then having to play. I mean, there's just so many pieces of that help build confidence and momentum in a year. And that's where we've had a tremendous record in those tight matches this year.
And you speak about sleep. I love that thing. I love it. And I don't get a lot of it, but you mentioned the importance of it. And to me, it's been an integral part of moving forward in my life, because you talk about, the life of a student athlete. But I think with anybody, there's a reason why when they do sleep studies and they keep somebody up 24 hours and they see, like, how's the person acting? 48 hours. Okay. The person's getting antsy. They're getting anxious. They're getting nervous. They're confused. And then, like, 72 hours, some people become feral. There's something to be said about the fact that sleep studies show that we become animalistic. We become angry, violent, I think some people with anxiety, they start to hallucinate. So there's something to be said about the fact that our body needs a reset. And I'm saying this all now, and I know my parents are out there listening and watching going, yeah, okay, then why don't you do this? But to hear me out in the respect of, we plug our phones in. My computer is plugged in right now. We plug our phones in, we plug our computers in, we plug our tablets in. Because why? Because we cannot afford to not have battery to use the things for us to interact with people and interact with the world. Yet very rarely do we plug ourselves in with the same amount of respect and focus that we plug our phones in.
Yep.
I want to go a little bit deeper into sleep and why it's so important, in your opinion.
Yeah, it's just such a difference. We talk about it with our guys all the time in terms of when they walk in, like, you can be at practice or you can be prepared for practice. You can be preparing for practice from the time you walk into the building. We had a big conversation, and I've learned so much from Coach Ellis. Charlie, our assistant, has been with us, for 7-8 years now. And he just when he walks into a room, even without saying anything, there's just an energy and an enthusiasm that he brings, and an aura and a presence that he brings. But it's a conscious choice that he makes. And I think there's two parts of it that we've really been hammering home with our guys is it's the choice of, how do I want to be in the world? Do I want to be filled with gratitude and excited and enthusiastic? Or do I want to let my ego get in the way and be frustrated, tired, and angry about things? And just without saying a word, just walking into a room, I'm going to project one of those two to my teammates or to whoever's in the room. And part of that is, if I haven't eaten, if I haven't slept, it becomes even harder to do that. We all have our day-to-day grind of, for the guys, it's, well, I've got 3 exams, I got a presentation, I'm applying for internships. we all have stuff that gets in the way that are real problems that I got to deal with and I got to work through. And if I'm not rested and able to, it really impairs my judgment and my ability to look at that and say, what we talk about with the guys is uh, gratitude and grit are our first two team values. And if I'm coming to something with an attitude of gratitude, I've got that positivity and that aura of enthusiasm. And then grit is I'm not just getting through a challenge, but I'm enjoying the challenge. I'm realizing that I'm going to grow because of this challenge. But those are decisions I have to make. And when I'm not rested, I'm not fed, I don't make good decisions. It's just the science, the body of data behind that is just proven over and over again. So if I'm not sleeping well, that's going to impair my ability to make that decision on, do I want to have an attitude of gratitude? If I'm not well fed and getting the right type of calories and at the right timing, I'm going to, again, have that difficulty in choosing, how do I want to be in the world? How do I want to treat this decision? And I think that's something our team has done well. We haven't played well in a lot of our matches as a group. Maybe we've played well at a couple spots, but we've done a really good job of making that choice to remain positive, to remain supportive of our teammates, have the right attitude. And those choices add up and push us through. And we've gotten a lot of wins just on that. I'm looking forward to hoping that this weekend at the conference tournament, we can put it together and have the attitude and also play up to our capabilities across the board. But even if we don't, I feel really good about the way the guys have been over and over, day in and day out, making that choice to enjoy the challenge and support each other.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the attitude of gratitude. I mean, that's something. And like when we talk about sleep and we speak about eating right and taking care of yourself and an attitude of gratitude, I mean, this is all for everything. This isn't just tennis. This is when you are living your life in any type of profession. It's how you are going to be to the people that you love. It's how you're going to be to a total stranger. I mean, it's really important, in the mental health side of things and the mental toughness and all of that piece to it as well. What has been your best teacher of mental toughness this season for you as the coach?
For me as a coach, I think I think the guys, well, I think two things. One, I think even though I spent so much time with him, I think some of the the lessons I've learned from Coach Ellis have really been hitting me this year in a deeper way, and a little bit more pertinent than they have in the past a little bit. And just seeing how often he is just able to redirect and focus on the positive and not get bogged down in the details and the minutia of one thing that went wrong or didn't. So I think that's been a tremendous teacher for me over the last all my years at Binghamton, but especially this year. And the guys too. We had a couple moments early on in the season where we didn't perform well, and I let myself go down as a coach a little bit too far down that path of negativity after, where the observations I was making were correct in terms of what we didn't do. But the over dwelling on that and the way that those things came across, and I applaud our guys for in the right way, kind of calling me out on that. And, we try to hold all of ourselves, hold the team. I ask them to hold their teammates accountable when they're not doing something, having the right reaction, playing in the right way, or doing the right thing off the court. And I think early on they did that for me, and they gave me that feedback that it wasn't really reshifting our positivity in terms of what we need to do and how we're going to correct that. It was dwelling in the past. And I think those things, really helped out early on, that we had some of those conversations. And I think I've been able to do a better job of leading by example on that as the season's gone through. And I think, again, that's helped us push through in some tight matches and be more prepared for the tournament this week.
You brought up the reality that you've played in these one match games, either winning or losing in these one match games. But I want to know if your team has some type of connection through the cosmos to the score 4-3, because it just seems it's in these 10 games, it's been 4-3. It's either 3 for you or 4 for you. But but I want to go to this too, in those 10 matches that have ended 4-3, either in a win or a loss, the last 3 two of them being inside of the NEC in conference play. You've won the last three that you've had match-wise against LIU on the road, as well as on the road at Duquesne, and then on the road at St. Francis, two of those being NEC play when it comes to matches. But to bring me into getting on the right side of 4-3, your last 4-4-3s have gone in your favor. So if we go back to Merrimack, but just what it is with 4-3, if this is a number that seems to follow you. And then secondly, getting on the right side of it, especially late in the season as you head into the NEC championships.
Yeah, I think from a coaching staff and from a player standpoint, I think we've done a really good job as the season has gone of really focusing on why do we do things and how do we do things. And then everything else becomes irrelevant, because if you know those two things, in the how we respond to things, the most coaching I've been spending the most time on just with Coach Ellis on things like our head nods. Yes, everything's up and down. Everything is up and down. Especially when I've lost the point. Not okay, maybe in spite, but it's just especially when things don't go well. The biggest thing we talked about against St. Francis, because there was a while it was a slow match because it was on 3 courts, so it took a while for everything to develop. And the momentum shifts are different when you're on a 3 or 4 court facility versus when you're playing all 6 singles at the same time. But you could really see on St. Francis' side that when they were getting up on the scoreboard and when players had played some good points, their energy from their bench, from the guys playing, was incredibly high, and they were very loud and very enthusiastic. But then you could also see the crashes when they had a couple unforced errors or mistakes, or the scoreboard didn't go their way in a particular game. And I kept telling our guys on the bench and on the side, I said, especially when we lose a little bit of momentum on the scoreboard, that's when we've got to be the most loud, the most chest up, the most vocal, to really and there was an interesting incident on the ATP Tour this year, a few weeks ago, where Djokovic got very upset. He lost a point, ultimately ended up losing the match. And the only thing that had happened was his opponent, his body language changed during the point. And Djokovic, it was a microsecond where Djokovic looked at his opponent and his opponent looked like he had stopped. He didn't say a word. A linesman hadn't said anything. There was no reason for Djokovic to stop, but he saw this one little microsecond of body language change from his opponent. And I came back the next day and I was talking to the guys, and it just hit me. I said, guys, if maybe the greatest player of all time can be impacted by a nanosecond of body language from his opponent, how much more likely do you think it is that an NEC player or whoever else is on our schedule is going to be impacted by your body language? And I think that was a great moment for all of us to really connect that even at the highest levels of the game, your body language and what you're projecting can impact your teammates, the guys on the other side of the court. And so that really came through. We didn't play a great match in terms of striking the ball against St. Francis in particular. But the guys stayed really positive and really focused on just what's next. What do I need to do next? I can't go backwards on anything. And so I think that's been really critical in those 4-3 matches. And so the score has really been irrelevant, because we've been really good about just staying dialed in to what can I do with the tools that I have today.
Yeah, I think that's great, because what do they say? That 90% of what you say isn't coming out of your mouth. So there's this reality of your body language. And I mean, I would say if I'm on a tennis court and I see somebody just like smiling and they're happy and they're excited and they're just going after it, and then I get a couple good opportunities in there, and now all of a sudden it's starting to shift in my direction, and I see them hang their head, I see them kind of, they're taking more time, their shoulders, they're kind of hunched over. If I see a change in you, I'm like, I got him now. You know what I mean? Like, in that moment, there's a reason why at the end of Mortal Kombat, when they would say finish him, that you'd see somebody just kind of like ready to fall over. So if you have that moment, and then you'd be like, yeah, I'll be like, as soon as that happened, you're like, what is it? It's BBA, AAB. What do I have to do? So, but you knew in that moment, like, this is my finishing move. This is my finishing moment. And I think, what you're saying in the fact of the world of, this And when we're looking at tennis, it's the same type of thing. What is the finishing move? What is that going to be the next move? What is that moment where you see the shift? And I think the people that are most successful in life are the people that when it gets really, really high up positive, they stay focused. When it gets really, really low and they're like, oh my gosh, I could lose this thing, they stay focused. Because if you show that even keel, I've seen it before with certain guys. It's like, guy scores 30 points in a basketball game and he's got the same face as when he's 1 for 17. Guy in a match who's, down substantially and just feels like nothing is falling the way that he wants it to fall or she wants it to fall. And you just see this face of like, the match just began. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to go and do what I got to do. I mean, it could be the middle of the match. It could be the end of this thing, but the way that they're acting is, it's the beginning. Like, I just got here. And I think it's one of the hardest things to master, but it goes back to mental toughness. It goes back to mental health. It goes back to sleep. It goes back to nutrition, all the things that we've been talking about here with Nick Zieziula. Nick, I want to go back to hometown. Bring us into your hometown. There's so many places I want to go because you've given so much awesome information and you still haven't obliged me in singing your song yet, but I understand like the ramp up to it. But, I'm having a lot of fun talking with you about a lot of different things. Let's go back to hometown because you brought up Georgia Southern too, right? So you've traveled, you've been in different places, but let me know about your hometown. Do you go back? And is there something from your hometown that you try to give yourself in Binghamton?
So it's funny. We were down in at Duquesne in Pittsburgh, and part of the academy there where we were, some of the coaches had kind of shifted and moved from Buffalo to Binghamton actually before they landed down in Pittsburgh. And they got a bunch of pictures up of kind of the class of kids that had come through with those coaches. So it's funny getting to see some of the pictures of some of the people that I got to train with who went on to play at Georgia Tech, and there's just a slew of different Division I schools. So I was very fortunate growing up that we had a really good tennis community. There were a lot of good players that were a little bit older than me that I was able to look up to and see how they did things and be able to get on court with some of those players. Some of the coaches that I was fortunate enough to work with in juniors, both in tennis and in soccer and in football, really just instilled so many awesome lessons in me. Frank Barreto, who I worked with and actually ended up was coaching for a little while in Binghamton, tremendous discipline that he taught me on court, and just the value of putting another ball in play, even if technically it doesn't look pretty, and it doesn't have to be the hardest shot or the strongest, but just always putting another ball back in play. And then some of the, Rob Gregoire, just a passion for the game and enthusiasm with playing. And I worked with some soccer coaches who were just tremendous. Craig Fatty at my high school, and Greg Brilla, and guys that were always studying the game and trying to bring different things into practice. I got to play a little football for Coach Smith, who's landed a bunch of players and coaches into the NFL. And so those lessons have always stayed with me, and things that I try to bring with me into wherever I go and whatever I'm doing.
Nick Zieziula here with us, the men's tennis head coach for the Binghamton University Bearcats in this Bearcat Breakroom. We look at the history of this tennis program, and when you took over, 7 straight conference titles is it was a part of this history for men's tennis in Binghamton. Advanced to the NCAA tournament 11 times in a 13-year span. I know you spoke about, if I'm going to go to a program, can I win there? What do I have at my disposal? Looking at Binghamton's success, the historic success, and being a torchbearer, not just for men's tennis, but for the university as a whole, just what that meant to you to see the success of this program, to know that they had risen to have national exposure and national opportunity, just what you felt like you could do with that. And since taking over in this last decade, if you feel that you've added to the portfolio as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting. My first head coaching job was at Georgia Southern, and
Yeah.
things hadn't been great there. So it was kind of an easy position to take over because there had been a long gap before since they had had a lot of results, noteworthy results. And so there wasn't the only pressure was put on by myself, but it was easy to kind of operate. When I came to Binghamton, it was uh, a great challenge in saying, okay, we got to keep a program going well. But I think that led to, we made it to the MAC championships in my first season. Um, and we were in the playoffs the second year. But I think, going back to the 4 threes and in this season, I got overly fixated on the results and the pressure to, okay, let's keep this going and we got to win, and worrying about the outcome and
Yeah.
forgetting a little bit about the process and how we were doing things, and how we were keeping the guys enthusiastic and upbeat and positive, and getting too bogged down in what the outcome on a given day was. And so we struggled a little bit with results, and then the COVID years and things like that didn't help either. But I think I've been able to learn from those lessons, and I think we're rebounding in a different way in some of the things that we're doing in the community with our community service program, and what we're instilling in the guys, what the team is learning from that, the way we've been able to connect with the alumni. And I think we went back to, what are we doing? How are we doing it? And letting the results take care of themselves. And I think that's, along with administrative support from, the president and our AD, putting us in a position to be successful in terms of wins and losses. You put all that together, and I think we're moving in a very interesting place right now. You add in the facility situation, and what we're able to do with that. I'm really excited about making our own chapter now. Following Adam, Cohen had an amazing career here, and shaped the program in his way, in a phenomenal way. And I think I'm kind of getting to the point now where I'm shifting into my own way of being. And I think, I think when it's all said and done, whenever that is, it'll be a good chapter of Binghamton tennis that I was able to help be a part of.
Why keep doing it? Why be a part of it? Like you said, I mean, we're looking at a decade in, but you said, when I'm done, whenever that is, this is going to be a really good chapter in it. Why Binghamton? Why do you continue to choose Binghamton? And where do you kind of envision things going for you? Because I mean, you're a young person out here in society, right? So are we going to steal you for 30 years? How long are we going to have you for?
My wife and I have been, I mean, we have our little community here on the West Side is like a little slice of heaven. I mean, we had, during COVID, we had neighbors who, we kind of twisted their arms a little bit at the start of it, but we had a little Sunday afternoon concert series, and it was 15 minutes, but it was just such an amazing little slice of the day that we had. And just little things like that. The teachers and things and administrators at our school, our kids' elementary school on the West Side, that we've just absolutely loved. And I think what we've been doing with the guys and getting them into some of the elementary schools, to really connect with their joy of the game, where they started off as little kids. We all had that moment of somebody introduced us to the game, whether it was, like a family member, my dad, or whether it was a neighbor or somebody else. I think that's helped the guys. And I think there's a lot of things. We've been working a lot with Tennis Charities of Binghamton, who for a long time ran the Challenger at Rec Park, which was an amazing event. And I think we're now evolving into what that organization is doing. And we've worked hand in hand with them as a varsity program, and that organization. And I think we're trying to grow the game in the area. We had an event on Martin Luther King Day where we had like 120 kids up at the tennis center, and the vast majority of them were not members or had never played tennis before. And then we had kids signing up for tennis clinics off of that. And so to be a part of that and growing the game, we're looking at some fun things of bringing back, it's long term. We want to get the challenger back here. It's good for the varsity program. It's good for the tennis community, but looking at getting some other competitive opportunities kind of run by and sponsored by Tennis Charities of Binghamton, as well as working to set up a longer term mentoring program in the city schools with an after school mentoring component, academic help, as well as tennis and physical activity. We've gotten to work with some amazing programs down in New York City. A few times we've been down there, and so we're looking to launch some of that stuff, if not this year, but in the coming year. One of our guys just won a grant through the Cornell Cooperative to help support that. And when you have a sophomore undergrad writing grants to help and fund community programming, it's really special, and that's, I think, what athletics can be at its best. Like anything, you can use a vehicle to go in many different directions. But I think that's where my enthusiasm is right now, is seeing how not only are we driving towards more success and winning on the court, but seeing our guys grow and develop for their future professions, as well as whatever communities they're going to be in, because that's going to be a part of who they are, whether they have families or not, that somewhere they're going to be a member of the community, and being able to look beyond just, the little blinders of the 6 inches in front of their face and what's going to impact just their day-to-day life, and be able to see how they can impact those around them. I think is really a great part of being involved in college athletics. And one of the things that I love about being specifically at Binghamton, because we're able to make that be a focus of what we do. And that comes from the leadership, from President Stanger, from Gene, from our administration, where we're able to really look at this as a piece of their education. And yes, we're out there to win matches. We want to be highly competitive on a national scale, but we're also realizing that our job isn't to produce professional athletes. It's to produce well-rounded people and be a part of their education here.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact of the multi-layered just feeling of what Binghamton University is and what it stands for and what matters to you and what you care about. And like you said, having a sophomore undergrad writing grants and trying to help out the community, there's something to be said about that. I know that the Binghamton University education is not an easy education. It's not something that you just go play sports and then do something that doesn't really amount to anything. There's so much value in that. And so there's a lot of respect that I have for the work that's done. I know that you've worked in the community and you put yourself out there and put yourself, in opportunities with committees and trying to build as well. When you see the community aspect of it, that community service, the giving back to the Southern Tier, giving back to Binghamton University, that surrounding community, Vestal area, Binghamton area, and so on and so forth. Why is that so important to you? And with all the time that you have as a head coach and as a family person and as a friend, with the little amount of time that you have to yourself, that you want to give not only to the community yourself, but that you want your student athletes to do the same thing. You want them to value that and understand that. Why is it so important for Binghamton University, in your opinion, and important to you, to not be the castle on the hill, but to be fully invested in the community that surrounds you?
So our one of our assistants this year, Luke Carney, which at one point we were talking with the guys, he said, ego is the enemy of gratitude. And it's something that we've been talking about a lot with the team. When we have that attitude of gratitude, there's just such a different sense of enthusiasm that you're able to bring to things, and such, I find, even myself, and there's writing and research on this, gobs and gobs of it, that you're in a healthier state of mind, and it's just better for you. And so we so often put our ego first of, I need this and I need more of that. And we get so concerned over those things. And it seems like the right path to go down. But when you only allow yourself to focus on that, you allow yourself to, you lose that sense of gratitude, and so that's something where we've really, I know I found in my own life, the more I'm able to push that ego out of the way and be there to help other people, and to enjoy somebody else's success, I'm happier. I'm a better version of myself. And so I want to help our guys and the team to learn that. We talk a lot about that in terms of just within our team, of being a good teammate, of being able to cheer for somebody else, support somebody else. Which in tennis is such an individualistic sport, that can be a hard lesson for guys to learn coming into a team atmosphere, where everything in junior tennis is always about the individual and myself, and I need to do what I need to do for me to be prepared. And you're not concerned so much about what your teammates are doing or what they need. And guys know this intrinsically. They talk about it, how much more they enjoy college tennis. Just over and over and over again, when they find out, oh, I have a team to cheer for, and I have a teammate helping me, and I have a teammate to help out, they enjoy it so much more. And so we know this, and we experience it in so many different ways, but we get bogged down by the details of life, and, well, I need to be here, and I need to make this, and I need to get that. But it really just becomes a distraction to us being the best versions of ourselves. So I find that the more that I've been able to try to help other people out in the community and grow other people's success, I've also found my own benefits to that. And so it seems like it's a selfless thing to do, but it ends up becoming a very selfish thing to do, because you end up enjoying it and finding so much more happiness and perspective, right? The more that we do in different communities, and you see that not everybody has the same opportunities that you've had. I was very blessed with my parents and my family being super supportive of my education, my athletics. And not everybody has had that opportunity, and it's easy to take things for granted when you don't think about it and you don't make a conscious effort to. So I think it was David Foster Wallace who had a great commencement speech about started with two goldfish swimming by each other, talking, and an old goldfish swims by and says, "How's the water?" And the two young goldfish turn to each other and look and go, "What's the water?" They're in it. They're so immersed in it that you don't pay attention to it. And the wisdom of the old goldfish, who understood what he was swimming around in, but it brings a different perspective to that you do have.
Well, I think there's another part of it too that I am integrating into my daily life, which is the notion of to be a goldfish, which means, because goldfish have such a short memory.
Yeah.
So be a goldfish. If you win, be a goldfish. If you lose, be a goldfish. And I think that's a huge part of it. I want to jump into rapid fire in just a second here, where you and I get to put each other on the hot seat. Coaches never get to ask questions, so you get the opportunity to ask, and it could be about anything, could be sports related, could be life. But before we go there, a new opportunity this year as you step into it. We talk about the Northeast Championship opportunity here that's coming up April 12th through the 14th, and what this means for your team and what this means stepping forward, being in the NEC. Now, before this, there was 13 seasons in the America East, then most recently in the Mid-American, in the MAC. And this first season in the Northeast Conference, what have been your takeaways of being in the Northeast, knowing that this Friday through Sunday, April 12th to the 14th, you'll be at West Windsor, New Jersey at Mercer County Park for the opportunity at a Northeast Conference championship, the first time that Binghamton gets to compete for one. What's it been like to see the transition of this? Because you reflect on history, obviously you weren't here for all of it, but to go from the America East, you know what the Mid-American's all about. You competed in it at Buffalo as a student athlete. So to go from the MAC to the NEC, what has that been like, and what are the benefits for Binghamton?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit is like travel. It was tough in the MAC. You're going out to DeKalb, everywhere you're going except for Buffalo, it's a hike. And when you're getting back as late as we were getting back, really Monday morning, and then again, that paired with what our training times were, Tuesday morning, we're right back at it early in the morning, and the guys aren't getting that rest. And you would see that enthusiasm kind of wane over the course of the year as that fatigue, built on each other from all that travel. So being in a situation where we're much more geographically, it's just a much more much easier travel, less time in the van, able to get home, and less class time missed. So there's less stress from that. So all those things build up and add. Resource wise, we're in a much more similar situation with our peers, a little bit to the good on that in the upper part of the conference with what we have access to in terms of training times and coaching staff and things like that. So that's been a tremendous difference. The tricky part has been facility wise and the nature of the travel. We've been, we had one road trip where we played 3 different facilities, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We played Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday early in the day. So, we ended up going 3-0 on that weekend, but definitely that match on Sunday, you could see where it took a toll on the guys a little bit in terms of our, how we were playing, how we were moving a little bit with, and adjusting to 3 different facilities. Again, court surface is a huge deal in tennis. And so being able to, or having to go through that where the MAC, it was a Friday, Sunday schedule. You were generally always there the day before and able to get on the surface. Sometimes, a lot of times we were able to play twice before our warm-up, before that match in the facility. So you were very familiar with the court surfaces. That's definitely been a challenge in the NEC that's been a little bit different. And I think overall, the guys have done really well on that. We lost at FDU, but everything else on the road, we took care of business, and we only had Lemoyne at home, and we took care of Lemoyne on the road as well on a tricky surface with some different setup in terms of the side curtain and how much width you had on the court and the speed of the court. So those have been the big differences.
Nick Zieziula here with us, men's tennis head coach, Binghamton University, in this Bearcat break room. Let's jump into rapid fire, sir. We've had a lot of fun here together. Like I said, every kind of place that you went to, every door that you opened, I'm like, okay, I kind of want to stick with that. And, I'm still waiting for that. You got a long warm up for music. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Going through that, just getting the voice going. But we have 2 questions apiece. You can ask me anything in the world. We'll go back and forth. So you get one, I get one. What's your first question for me?
So this has been a new experience for you in terms of covering Binghamton University Athletics this year. What's been your favorite part so far of covering the Bearcats?
Well, I will say that this has been a passion project. I wanted to work with Binghamton like 3 years ago, three and a half years ago. And I told Gene I've been patiently waiting. So patiently impatient. So, but yeah, it really, for me, I came in with men's and women's basketball and getting to know people there. And then just getting to be around the university. I went to Marywood, so it was the midpoint. Binghamton between Syracuse and Scranton was right there in the center. And so I drove by so many times. And then I call my adopted grandfather. He passed away a few years ago, but Grandpa Bill, he always had love for the Southern Tier, lived a few minutes from Binghamton. And I know that it was important to him and the area was important. And then I started and it's always the people. If I meet good people somewhere, I want to work with those people. And I had, just waited a long time. It was before Gene had come in. And then I got to talking with Gene and I said, hey, I'd love to sit down with you and I'd love to have our conversation, just you and me. I said, I'm an old school guy. I like the face-to-face. And I came to Binghamton and I sat down in Gene's office, and for the hour that we spoke, I don't know if we spoke about, business in the sense of like, okay, how are we going to do this? It was literally 99.9%. This is the man I am. This is the man I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I stand for. And Gene and I paralleled on so many places to the point where I feel like we didn't really have to talk about a lot of the mechanics of it. It was more of, this is the man you are. This is the man I am. And this is just makes sense for us to work with like-minded people who care. And so how's it been? Everyone I've talked to, you included, the story is unique. It's special. It makes me want to know more. I haven't left any coach or student athlete not wanting to talk with them again and say, okay, like when's the next time we're going to talk? So I would say that my desire to work with Binghamton was big. My reaction to working with Binghamton is better than what I thought it would be.
Awesome.
That's what I would say. All right, my first
Cool.
question for you. Let's stick with the music thing because I'm having fun with this. If you had to sing 3 songs, Nick, if you're going on tour, you got your family with you. So you got your wife, Amy, you got Annika, you have Willem with you. Everybody's on the tour bus. What 3 songs do you think they would pick for you to sing?
Oof. It's probably well, number one is definitely going to be the Isley Brothers shout.
Okay.
We're a Bills family, and so the shout song is frequently getting Alexa is being asked to play. So and the kids do like the original with the Isley Brothers. So I think
Okay.
that's probably number one, and number two. And then oof, I don't know. We've got another little one in the house right now, so it's probably Baby Shark.
Okay.
That's probably the Isley Brothers 1 and 2, and then Baby Shark number 3.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. What's your last question for me?
Do you have kids?
I do not. I've always
You do not.
wanted to. I don't.
Okay. So here's still my favorite question to ask as a parent of young kids, because if somebody doesn't have kids, they had parents or parental figures in their life. So what's from your experience for your youth, what's your best parenting advice for me?
My best parenting advice for you: be a goldfish.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, don't harp on. I would say things I would say about life. If I was talking to a parent or to a kid, I would say what I would have said to myself back then and told myself to listen. Don't worry about the world's opinions of you. But they say that other people's opinions of you are none of your business. So I would say, don't worry about the world's opinion of you. Not worry about, but think about God's opinion. Keep your faith, stay strong in who you are, know who you are. And as a parent, my advice to you right now, I would say cherish every second, because every parent I've ever talked to says it goes by way too fast. So I would say cherish every moment, have patience, even when it's hard to. Don't break your speakers when Baby Shark plays. And remember that one of the greatest gifts, if not the greatest gift that God can give us, is the opportunity to have the leadership and the just wonderful blessing of getting to raise someone else and getting to teach them what it means to love, and then seeing them put it into action themselves.
Awesome.
That's what I would say.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. My last question for you, since you're a Bills family, and I figured, but I didn't want to assume. So being a Bills family, what are your thoughts on the Stefon Diggs trade? And can Buffalo get back to the playoffs this year?
Oof. So my son is definitely disappointed. He was a big Diggs fan. But yeah, I think they can. I mean, when you've got Josh Allen, I think kind of anything's possible. I mean, he's the type of guy that, like, I mean, heck, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up playing defense out there. He just seems like he can kind of do a little bit of everything. But he's fun to watch. That's for sure. And I think coaching wise, they've done. I mean, they've developed some great players on defense the last couple of years. So even with some changeover in personnel there, I don't think that's a massive problem. And I think some of the other teams in the league that you've seen do well haven't necessarily, wide receiver one hasn't been the end all be all of a team's success. So I think ultimately, if and I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff, but if ultimately part of that was some rifts in the locker room and that cleans that up, and not saying whose fault it was or whatever, but if there's a little bit more harmony in the locker room, I think ultimately that's a positive thing, and probably puts them in a better position than they were, because I've seen that with our guys. When you've got a group of people wanting to pull for each other and really on the same page with what needs to be done, there's no telling how much you can accomplish.
I totally agree. As a Jaguar fan, Jalen Ramsey, very talented, big locker room issue that I saw. So, and the team I think is better for it in the long haul. The long haul. There was actually there was 4 guys within a 2 to 3 year period. I said, these are the guys that have to go, and I was like, it's not that they're not talented; they just have to go. And then there was a couple they got rid of. I was just really sad about, but Yannick Ngakoue, Jalen Ramsey, Telvin Smith, and Marcel Darius, who you know from Buffalo, they were all problems. Heartbreaking, AJ Boye, Calais Campbell, letting those guys go. But, and also personally, and I let Marvin Jones Jr. go because him and I got to spend some quality time together. But yeah, I can fully understand the talent, but the head case. And I was like, just watching Stephon Diggs this past couple of seasons, I said, listen, this man celebrates alone. This man whines and looks like a baby alone. There's something to be said about being on a roster with 53 people and you're not with the other 52. So in that case, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just wish Buffalo got more for it.
Yeah.
And didn't have to give up so much and take such a cap hit. With that being said, Nick Zieziula here with us, men's tennis, Binghamton University for the Bearcats. Go out and support them in New Jersey this Friday through Sunday. Very excited about what's coming up in the NEC. Congratulations on having a winning record, as you are now your first season in the NEC. And overall, I have that winning record on the right side of 4-3 recently here, and giving us so many things to be proud about, especially starting things off about your family. So this Bearcat Breakroom, very sentimental, open, and real. And the next time he has told me, I think we just got a special transmission. We did. I just looked at this, and the transmission says that if and when Nick is to sing, the song will be Shout. This must have been sent from your wife, and that he will be prepared next time upon request. So good to know. I'm happy that she was able to get us a telegram here today. Nick, as always, thank you so much. I know it's the first time having you here on the show, but a fantastic first impression of who you are and what you stand for. And I greatly value that. And you got me wanting to run out there to a tennis match. And isn't that what it's all about, right? Supporting the people that you really care about and feel are doing good work out there. So thank you for what you've done. And thank you for taking some time today.
Thanks so much, Dan. I really enjoyed the conversation and look forward to getting to meet you in person and having more conversations in the future.
Absolutely.